Alright, well I guess I'll see how this goes. Basically what I'm going to do is, since I can't get from the bottom right now, I'm going to actually remove the intake and do the starter from the top and check some other things, because this car hasn't been started in a while. So I'm going to go over a couple things. I did already switch out the plugs because they were shot. I have another coil that I'm going to try on it, and like I said, I'm going to check the fuel and all that stuff too. So basically what you need to do here is, if you still have one of these, you can pull that off, and then you want to get all your wiring unplugged, all your injectors. And then you have your map down here. These usually, if you can get them up past there. Okay, check that out, right like that, out of the way. All right, so we tuck them out of the way. Now what I'm going to do is, I already have this loose here. Depending on what air box or aftermarket air intake, you're going to have to take that out of the way. Loosen this. I have this loose. This doesn't need undone down here because it's undone up here already. Alright, you're going to want to, you can drain down your fuel system. Basically, you can pull the relay and run it for a minute. Sorry about the finger. And then you just squeeze these together and then you pull that up. But make sure if you do that, gas could spray. So use caution. Now, you'll have all of the bolts down through here on your intake. Same process as changing an intake gasket basically too. So, and then it's down in behind there, right back there. I usually like to get them with a wrench because it's easier. There's a lot of stuff in the way to be able to get it with a ratchet. I always like to pull the dipstick out of the way, because then that's not something else that's in the way when you're trying to you know, get this thing off. So right now what I'm going to do is check to see if this is ever off, and it looks like it is. Sometimes down here on the bottom of the intake to the one starter bolt, there's a little bracket that runs. Most of the time people don't reinstall them. It's a 15 millimeter on the starter and on the bottom of the intake. What I'll do is I'll remove the headlight, and I'll take these ones. That way I can pull out, then I get my headlight out, and then I use a long extension and go right through the hole where the headlight is, and you can get right to those bolts on the bottom of the starter. Seems to work out the best. Alright, I'm going to get these bolts out of the intake. I'll be back. Alright, I got all the intake bolts are out. Now, like I said, you want to make sure everything's unplugged. You have your throttle position control sensor and your idle air control. And I'm getting this vacuum line off out of the way. And then this is for the throttle cable. I bolted here. These usually aren't on here. Usually just take a flathead screwdriver here. Get this thing off like that. You'll see why I'm doing this here in a minute. Alright. Put that to the side. Okay, so here's your intake. You're going to have to weasel it over a little bit and get it to come up past here, which is going to take two hands. Alright, so there you go. That's up over. Now, when you pull this forward, you'll see this hose here. I want to disconnect this one. Alright, so this is all I'm going to do, because that's unhooked. I'm just laying this off to the side, just like that. So that can give me access in here to look at anything in the valves, and gives me access right down here to the starter, which you need to undo this one. Alright, and then here's a 13 mil, here's a 15, down here's another 15, and then a 15 bolt coming from the other side. So we're going to grab some tools and then we'll be right back here and get this thing out. Get our 13 on here. I actually got it broke loose before I started videoing, so kind of takes the dramatic feature out of it. but I'm happy it came off so loose. Or was so loose, it came off so easily. So there's that. Now, as I drop my ratchet extension, again, okay, got a 15. Just gonna try to get on here. Alright, try that. It's actually pretty good and tight for the ground, which is what you want it to be. So, I mean, if you're doing it this way and you need to get a little bit of room, you can reposition your intake. But this should be good. There we go. Alright, got brooklets. Alright, I'm going to get this one, and the one on the bottom out. Alright, so I can honestly say, in my opinion, this is what the lower bolt looked like. Nice and clean. Alright. Now here's what the upper bolt looks like. Where's that? Corrosion and stuff on there. That could have been causing a ground issue, which could have been causing the slow crack also. But like I said, we're taking this out and we're got everything cleaned up, and have one more bolt to go. This one here. And we'll get this out. Alright. We got everything tightened up. We did start our 3 bolts before we got them snug. Most of them went pretty hand tight. Cleaned everything up. Have these wires here going in. Okay, now I did start working on the intake, and what I like to use is, I'll show you here, just a straight edge razor blade. Now don't forget, this is aluminum and it will gouge and can cause yourself a leak. I usually just try to grab, it works pretty good when I put my finger in the way, but I just take this and go like this and pull back like that. It's actually starting to clean some of that off, but I got most of the dirt off. Where's it? Right there. Alright, and once I get it to that point, I spray it down with some brake clean, and then you can wipe back through here. You can reach down in, inspect to make sure you don't have any gasket fragments down in your intake. It won't cause any damage because it's paper, but you do want to make sure that that part's clean. Now we're going to do the same on the intake side. What you can see, this one still has a gasket on it. Alright, and we can see that this one here was not on there quite so well. Actually, it's cracked through here, it's almost cracked through here, and it's cracked through here. So this wasn't really making a good seal, and I don't ever remember seeing one like this out of all the ones that I've removed. So it does have some writing on it. Let's see, hopefully there's something on the other side. Maybe it'll be more clear to see. I don't know, some weird letters right there, kinda. Nothing I can see. It actually, look, the gasket's actually separating there. So you can see just how bad that was. So basically do the same thing here. I just take my razor blade and scrape your dirt away from the holes, obviously. So you get it back down in there. Just like that. Now you might get one where someone had already been pretty hard on it. You can, or if the gasket's stuck, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of like sawing at it, pushing real easy as to not gouge the aluminum. I mean, it's a little harder to do than what you think. I'm just stressing the point. So all right, I'm gonna get this all cleaned up, and then I'll show you the gasket and the install. All right, so I got the Felpro gasket. This is the part number for it. I think this came from AutoZone or Advanced. Intake manifold. Okay. It does come with the one for the PT Cruiser, but we don't use that, so we don't need that one. Now I got this pretty cleaned up. Make sure I didn't drop nothing down in there. You can see a little bit, which I'll flip this upside down and tap it out. But you want to make sure that when you install your gasket, you install it the correct way. Alright, so if this is going to go against the cylinder head like that, because you want that high side to the left when you're looking at it this way, which is actually to the right of the vehicle when you're sitting in it. So I'm going to get this little bit of dust out, and then I'll set this down in, and I'll set the intake gasket in, and I'll get that bolted on. Alright, so we now have the intake sitting back down in, and this is like this. What I do is I set that here, and then you can kind of get it fed down in. I pull it in and out on it, and then I start this one first, and then I can reach my hand underneath and get the lower bolts. So we're going to do that. Alright, so when I reinserted this, I pushed it back down into the cold side pipe, and then I got it lined up. I dropped the gasket in, I tightened this, got this bolt started, and then I could stick my fingers underneath, and I used the long extension that I had, and I just put the bolt in and slid it in and got it in the hole, and I got them all started, and then I tightened them down. If you see this, I did drop that one, but I'll go into more detail on what I'm actually doing here. But that's basically your intake gasket install. I'm not running these wires. This should actually be run down underneath, and then you can plug this in underneath back behind there too. All right, so now since we got that done, we pretty much have everything hooked up. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to see what happens here. Try this out.